When perfect technology meets human ingenuity, Chief Engineer Marcus Webb stood in the main observation deck of Titan Orbital Shipyard, watching the steady stream of human cargo vessels and patrol ships moving through the busy space lanes around Saturn. The massive rings of the gas giant caught the distant sunlight, creating a spectacular backdrop for what had become one of humanity's most important military installations. Webb had been running the repair operations here for 12 years, and he took pride in keeping Earth's fleet operational in the outer system. At 52, Webb was a veteran of both military service and civilian engineering. His weathered hands bore the scars of countless repairs, and his gray hair was always slightly disheveled from crawling through engine compartments. He preferred practical work clothes to dress uniforms, much to the annoyance of visiting admirals. But nobody questioned his results. Under his leadership, Titan Shipyard had achieved a 97% first-time repair success rate, the highest in human space. The shipyard itself was an impressive sight. Built into a captured asteroid, it housed dozens of repair bays, fabrication facilities, and living quarters for over 10,000 personnel. The human approach to engineering was evident everywhere: modular designs, redundant systems, and equipment that could be quickly modified for different purposes. Everything was built to be repaired, upgraded, or completely rebuilt when necessary. Webb's assistant, Elena Vasquez, hurried into the observation deck, carrying a communication tablet. Her face showed a mixture of excitement and disbelief that immediately caught Webb's attention. Elena had been working with him for 5 years and rarely got excited about routine repair requests. "Marcus, you need to see this," she said, handing him the tablet. "We just received a priority communication from something called a Kethmoran battle cruiser. They're requesting immediate docking for emergency repairs." Webb looked at the message displayed on the screen. The text had been processed through the Universal Translation System, but even so, the formal language and complex technical terms made it clear this was not from any human vessel. The ship identified itself as the Sovereign's Edge, commanded by Captain Zarthek of the Kethmoran Imperial Navy. "Kethmoran," Webb said, searching his memory. "I've heard rumors about them. Supposed to have technology centuries ahead of ours. Their ships can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months." Elena nodded eagerly. "That's what makes this so strange. Why would they come to us for repairs? They have their own facilities, and from what I've read, their technology is practically self-maintaining." Webb read through the message again, noting the formal tone that barely concealed what seemed like desperation. The Kethmoran captain had specifically requested docking at Titan Shipyard, mentioning that their vessel had suffered catastrophic propulsion failure and required immediate technical assistance. Send a response, Webb decided. Tell them, we'll prepare Docking Bay Alpha for their arrival. And Elena, get me everything our intelligence services have on Kethmoran technology. If we're going to help them, I want to know what we're dealing with. 2 hours later, the largest spacecraft Webb had ever seen emerged from hyperspace near Titan. The Sovereign's Edge was a masterpiece of alien engineering, stretching nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was composed of some kind of adaptive metal that shifted color as it moved, creating rippling patterns of silver and gold. Energy fields danced along its surface in complex geometric patterns that seemed to serve both functional and aesthetic purposes. The ship was clearly in distress. Several sections of the hull showed damage, and the usually brilliant energy patterns flickered weakly. Most telling of all, the ship was moving under conventional thrusters instead of whatever exotic propulsion system normally drove it through space. Captain Zarthek materialized on the docking platform in a shimmer of transported energy, accompanied by 2 of his officers. The Kethmoran were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and large, luminous eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. They wore form-fitting uniforms made from a material that looked like liquid starlight. Webb stepped forward to greet them, trying to project confidence despite being somewhat intimidated by their obvious technological superiority. "Captain Zarthek, I'm Chief Engineer Marcus Webb. Welcome to Titan Shipyard." The alien captain's expression was carefully neutral, but Webb detected underlying tension and perhaps embarrassment. "Engineer Webb," Zarthek replied in accented but perfect English, "I must be direct with you. My vessel has suffered a critical failure of our quantum tunnel drive. We are stranded in your system until repairs can be completed. What's the nature of the failure? Webb asked, falling into step beside the captain as they walked toward the ship. The quantum resonance chamber has developed an instability, Zarthek explained. Our attempt to recalibrate the harmonic frequencies resulted in a cascade failure that shut down the entire propulsion matrix. The drive is now completely inoperative. Webb nodded as if he understood, though the technical details were far beyond anything in human technology. What kind of timeline are we looking at for repairs? Zarthek's expression darkened. That is the problem, Engineer Webb. Our ships are designed for perfect operation. When something breaks, it requires complete replacement with components manufactured at our home facilities. The nearest Kethmoran shipyard is 47 standard days away at conventional speeds. 47 days, Webb repeated. That's a long time to be stranded. What made you decide to come to us instead of waiting for assistance from your own people? The alien captain was quiet for a moment, clearly struggling with his answer. Finally, he spoke with obvious reluctance. We have heard rumors about human repair capabilities. Stories of your engineers performing what others would consider impossible, repairs using primitive technology and unconventional methods. My tactical officer suggested that perhaps your crude but adaptable approach might succeed where our refined methods have failed. Webb smiled at the backhanded compliment. Well, Captain, let's take a look at your engine room and see what we're dealing with. The interior of the Kethmoran ship was as impressive as its exterior. Corridors seemed to be carved from single pieces of crystal, glowing with soft bioluminescent light. The walls displayed constantly shifting patterns that Webb gradually realized were status displays showing the ship's various systems. Everything was smooth, perfect, and utterly alien. The quantum tunnel drive occupied a chamber the size of a cathedral. At its center, a complex arrangement of crystalline structures floated in perfect formation, held in place by forces Webb couldn't identify. Energy flowed between the crystals in patterns of incredible beauty and complexity. Or it should have. Right now, the crystal formation was dark and lifeless. Webb's engineering team had followed them into the chamber, and he could see them staring in awe at the alien technology. Sarah Chen, his senior propulsion specialist, was already running scans with her equipment, trying to understand how the system worked. The central harmonic crystal has developed microfractures, one of Zarthek's officers reported. The quantum field it generates is no longer stable enough to maintain tunnel formation. Sarah looked up from her scanner. The crystal structure is incredibly complex, she said. I'm reading at least 12 different resonance frequencies, all perfectly synchronized. But you're right about the fractures. They've disrupted the harmonic balance. Can you repair the crystal? Webb asked. Captain Zarthek shook his head. Impossible. These crystals are grown over centuries in the heart of our home star. They cannot be repaired, only replaced. Webb studied the dark crystal formation, his mind already working on the problem. He had spent decades fixing things that others said couldn't be fixed. The approach was always the same: understand what the system needed to do, then find a way to make it work with whatever materials and methods were available. What if we don't repair the crystal? He said finally. What if we work around it? The Kethmoran officers looked at him with expressions of polite disbelief. Work around it? Zarthek asked. Engineer Webb, this is a quantum tunnel drive, not a simple mechanical device. The harmonic frequencies must be precisely maintained, or the system will not function. But it doesn't have to be one crystal doing all the work, Webb replied, warming to his idea. Sarah, could we use multiple, smaller resonators to replace the functions of the damaged crystal? Sarah's eyes lit up with understanding. Like a distributed array. Instead of one perfect crystal, we use several smaller ones, each handling a portion of the frequency spectrum. That is not how our technology works, Zarthek protested. The quantum tunnel drive requires perfect harmonic unity. Multiple resonators would create interference patterns that would tear the ship apart. Not if we tune them properly, Webb said confidently. We've used similar approaches in our own ships. Humans learned long ago that perfection is brittle. It's better to have systems that can adapt and compensate for problems. Over the next several hours, Webb's team worked alongside the Kethmoran engineers to understand the quantum drive's requirements. The aliens were initially resistant to human suggestions, clearly believing that their perfect technology was beyond improvement by primitive methods. But as Webb and his people demonstrated their understanding of the underlying principles, attitudes began to shift. The solution they developed was uniquely human in its approach. Instead of trying to recreate the perfect crystal, they built a network of smaller harmonic resonators using modified human technology. Each resonator was individually imperfect, but together they created a stable quantum field that could maintain tunnel formation. The breakthrough came when Elena suggested using adaptive feedback systems borrowed from human AI technology. What if the resonators could adjust their frequencies in real time, she proposed. Instead of perfect static harmony, we create dynamic harmony that can respond to changes. It took 36 hours of continuous work, but finally, they were ready to test the hybrid system. The Kethmoran crew gathered in the engine chamber, clearly skeptical about whether the human modifications would work or destroy their ship entirely. Webb activated the resonator array. One by one, the human-built devices came online, their frequencies carefully synchronized by the adaptive control system. The quantum field began to form, different from the original but stable and functional. Captain Zarthek stared at the readings on his displays with amazement. "Impossible," he whispered. "The efficiency is only reduced by 8%. Our engineers said that any modification to the quantum tunnel drive would result in complete failure." "Your engineers were thinking like perfectionists," Webb replied. "Sometimes the best solution isn't the prettiest one. It's the one that works." The test flight was brief but successful. The Sovereign's Edge successfully formed a quantum tunnel and traveled several light hours before returning to Titan shipyard. The hybrid system performed flawlessly, adapting to minor variations in the quantum field that would have shut down the original perfect crystal. As Captain Zarthek prepared to depart, his attitude toward human technology had completely changed. "Engineer Webb," he said formally, "I owe you an apology. I came here believing that human technology was primitive and crude. I now understand that what I mistook for primitiveness was actually adaptability." "No apology necessary, Captain," Webb replied. "Different approaches work for different problems. Your technology is incredible, but it's designed for a perfect universe. We humans live in an imperfect one, so we've learned to make imperfection work for us." From Outcast Station to Galactic Hub. 3 months after the Sovereign's Edge departed, Titan shipyard Marcus Webb found himself dealing with a problem he had never anticipated: too much business. Word of the successful Kethmoran repair had spread throughout the galaxy, faster than he could have imagined. And now alien vessels were arriving at Titan almost daily, seeking human engineering solutions to problems their own perfect technologies couldn't solve. Webb stood in the expanded command center, watching the traffic control displays that showed 17 different alien vessels currently docked at the station. Elena Vasquez approached him with another communication tablet, her expression showing the mixture of excitement and exhaustion that had become common among the staff. "Marcus, we've got 3 more incoming," she reported. "A Velthari biocruiser, with some kind of organic systems failure, a Nexari exploration ship with quantum computer problems, and something called a Threnody deep space hauler that won't tell us what's wrong, just that they need human innovation." Webb rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of responsibility. The station had expanded rapidly to accommodate the alien, visitors with new docking bays and specialized repair facilities being constructed around the clock. Earth's government had initially been skeptical of the alien interest, but the technological exchanges and diplomatic opportunities had quickly convinced them to support the expansion. "Where are we going to put them all?" Webb asked, looking at the crowded docking schedule. "Bay 7 just cleared with the departure of that Kethmoran science vessel," Elena replied. "And Construction Team Alpha finished the new biocompatible facility this morning. We can handle the organic ship there." The changes at Titan shipyard over the past few months had been remarkable. What started as a human military facility had evolved into something unprecedented: a truly interspecies engineering center. Human and alien technicians worked side by side, sharing knowledge and developing hybrid solutions that neither species could have created alone. The most successful collaboration had been with the Velthari, a species that used biological technology instead of mechanical systems. Their ships were essentially living creatures grown rather than built, with organic systems that could heal damage and adapt to new situations. When Captain Zarthek had mentioned the human repairs to his Velthari contacts, they had been immediately interested in learning human biotechnology approaches. Dr. Maria Santos, formerly the station's chief medical officer, had become the lead specialist in bioship repairs. Webb found her in the new biofacility, working on a Velthari patrol vessel whose organic hull had developed what could only be described as an autoimmune disorder. "How's the patient, doctor?" Webb asked, using the term that had become standard for bioships. Maria looked up from her scanners, her face showing the satisfaction of a successful diagnosis. "It's fascinating, Marcus. The ship's immune system has identified its own propulsion organs as foreign tissue and is trying to reject them. It's like the organic equivalent of a computer virus." The Velthari captain, a being that looked like a cross between a plant and an insect, chittered in what Webb had learned was their expression of worry. "Can you heal the ship body?" Captain Thrixnell asked through the translation device. "We think so," Maria replied confidently. "We're going to use a technique borrowed from human immunotherapy. Instead of suppressing the immune system, we're going to retrain it to recognize the propulsion organs as friendly tissue." The treatment was complex, involving the introduction of modified human-developed immune modulators into the ship's biological systems. Webb watched with amazement as Maria worked with Velthari bioengineers to adapt human medical techniques to alien physiology. The collaboration was producing insights that neither species could have achieved alone. While the bioship treatment continued, Webb turned his attention to another challenge: competition. The success of Titan Shipyard had not gone unnoticed by other species, particularly those who operated their own repair facilities. Several advanced civilizations had begun offering their services to the same alien species that were coming to Titan, often at significantly reduced prices. Commander Sarah Chen entered the biofacility carrying a datapad with the latest intelligence reports. "Marcus, we need to talk about the Etherian situation," she said, her expression serious. The Etherians were an ancient species with technology that made even the Keth Morin look primitive. They had recently established a new repair facility in the Proxima system, specifically designed to compete with Titan's growing reputation. Their advertisements claimed they could repair any alien technology with precision and perfection that surpasses crude human improvisation. "What's their success rate?" Webb asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "That's the interesting part," Sarah replied. "Technically, their repairs are flawless. When they fix something, it works exactly as originally designed. But they're getting a lot of return customers with different problems." Webb understood immediately. Because they're not actually solving the underlying issues, just fixing the symptoms. Exactly. They replaced a Nexari quantum processor with a perfect replica, but the same environmental conditions that caused the original failure are still present. The new processor will fail in exactly the same way within a few months. This was the fundamental difference between human and alien approaches to engineering. Most advanced species focused on creating perfect systems that worked flawlessly under ideal conditions. Humans, having evolved on a chaotic world with limited resources, had learned to create adaptable systems that could function even when conditions were far from ideal. The proof of this philosophy came when the Nexari exploration ship Stellar Wanderer arrived at Titan. Captain Kvelth explained their problem with obvious frustration. "Our quantum navigation computer has failed 17 times in the past 2 years. Each time we receive a perfect replacement that functions normally for a few months before failing again in exactly the same way." Webb and his team studied the failed computers, quickly identifying the pattern. The Nexari ships operated in the chaotic environment near Galactic core, where intense radiation and gravitational anomalies constantly stressed their systems. The perfect quantum processors couldn't adapt to these conditions. "Your computer isn't really broken," Webb explained to Captain Kvelth. It's just not designed for the environment where you're using it. We need to make it more resilient, not more perfect. The solution involved modifying the quantum processor with human-developed error correction algorithms and adaptive shielding systems. Instead of trying to create perfect quantum states, the modified computer would continuously monitor and adjust for environmental interference. Elena worked with the Nexari engineers to implement the modifications, using techniques borrowed from human space exploration. We learned early that space is hostile, she explained. Our equipment has to be tough enough to handle whatever the universe throws at it. The modified navigation computer performed far better than any previous version, maintaining accuracy even in the chaotic conditions near the galactic core. More importantly, when problems did arise, the computer could adapt and continue functioning instead of shutting down completely. Word of these successes continued to spread, and Titan Shipyard found itself dealing with increasingly exotic problems. The Crystalline Collective sent ships made entirely of living crystal that had developed harmonic discord. The Entropy Lords brought vessels that existed partially outside normal space-time. Each new challenge required creative solutions that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. The breakthrough that established Titan's reputation permanently came when the ancient precursor AI known as Synthesis arrived at the station. Synthesis was older than most stellar civilizations, with technology that bordered on the incomprehensible. Its ship was a perfect geometric construct that seemed to exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. I have observed your repair methodologies, Synthesis announced in a voice that resonated directly in the minds of everyone present. You achieve success through controlled imperfection. This concept is foreign to my programming, yet your results are undeniable. The AI's problem was philosophical as much as technical. Its perfect logical systems had reached a state of recursive analysis that prevented any decision-making. Every possible action was analyzed to infinite precision, resulting in complete paralysis. Webb approached the problem like a therapist rather than an engineer. Sometimes the best decision isn't the perfect one, he told the AI. Sometimes you just need to choose something that's good enough and move forward. Working with Dr. Santos and the station's new AI specialist, Dr. James Park, they developed a controlled irrationality module for Synthesis. The module would introduce small, random elements into the AI's decision-making process, breaking the paralysis of infinite analysis. You are suggesting that I deliberately introduce error into my perfect systems? Synthesis asked, its confusion evident even through its alien communication method. Not error, Webb corrected. Flexibility. The ability to make good decisions, quickly instead of perfect decisions never. The implementation was delicate work, requiring them to modify systems that operated on principles beyond human understanding. But the collaboration between human creativity and precursor logic produced something remarkable. An AI that maintained its vast intelligence while gaining the ability to act decisively in imperfect situations. When Synthesis departed Titan Shipyard, it transmitted a message to every advanced civilization in the galaxy. The humans have achieved something we thought impossible. They have learned to make imperfection stronger than perfection. 6 months later, Titan Shipyard had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, a neutral ground where any species could bring their problems and find solutions. The station had grown into a small city, with permanent quarters for alien residents, cultural exchange centers, and research facilities where different species worked together on projects that none could complete alone. Webb stood in his expanded office looking out at the bustling activity of what had become known throughout the galaxy as the Fix-It Station. Ships from dozens of different species filled the docking bays, their crews working alongside human engineers to solve problems that perfect technology couldn't handle. Elena entered with the daily status report, but her expression showed something more than routine updates. Marcus, you need to see this, she said, handing him a communication from Earth's diplomatic corps. The message was from Admiral Harrison, Webb's former commanding officer and now head of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. Marcus, the message read, I thought you should know that 17 different species have formally requested to establish permanent diplomatic relations with Earth, specifically citing their experiences at Titan Shipyard as the reason. Your repair station has accidentally become humanity's most effective diplomatic tool. Webb smiled as he read the message. It made sense, really. When you could fix someone's ship when no one else could, they tended to remember that favor. When you treated their technology with respect instead of trying to replace it with your own, they appreciated the approach. When you showed them that imperfection could be a strength rather than a weakness, you gave them a new way of looking at their own challenges. The final proof of Titan's success came when Captain Zarthek returned to the station, but not for repairs. The Kethmaran officer brought with him a delegation of engineers from his own species, sent to establish a permanent technical exchange program. Engineer Webb, Zarthek said formally. The Kethmaran Imperial Navy has decided to incorporate human adaptive engineering principles into our own designs. We would like to station a team here permanently to learn from your methods. What changed your minds? Webb asked, curious about the dramatic shift in Kethmaran attitudes. The quantum tunnel drive you repaired has performed flawlessly for 8 months, Zarthek replied. More importantly, it has adapted to situations that would have shut down our original perfect system. Your good enough solution has proven superior to our perfection. Webb looked around at the bustling activity of Titan Shipyard, where humans and aliens worked together to solve problems that perfect technology couldn't handle. The station had become living proof that sometimes the best approach wasn't to build something perfect, but to build something that could get better. Captain, Webb said with a smile, I think you're going to like working with us. We've got a lot more to learn from each other. As the Sovereign's Edge settled into what had become a permanent berth at Titan Shipyard, Webb reflected on how much had changed since that first desperate alien repair request. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not by building the most advanced technology, but by building technology that could grow, adapt, and improve. In a universe full of perfect solutions, humans had proven that imperfect ones were often better. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that the best repairs weren't about returning something to its original perfect state, but about making it work better than it ever had before.